mission here at Surfrider. We're dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of the world's ocean, waves, and beaches for all people through our activist network. And we are dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but all people can protect, for all people to protect and enjoy the world's oceans, waves, and beaches. And we'll take a minute to acknowledge this land where we're all standing on right now, whether it's Bend or Coos Bay or Eugene. Thank you for taking the time to acknowledge the land and think about, as we move forward and make decisions, how we can honor the past and present and future of this land and its people. And today we have the great joy of having elected officials, Beatrice and Katie, to come join us. And I have, Bree and I have a variety of things we've been thinking about. What is it like to be an elected official? How do you build relationships with your constituents? What are ways the public can participate effectively? How do city and county governments work together? What type of work are you and your council or commission doing in the realm of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion? How do you reach out to underrepresented communities? So those are a couple of things we're thinking about, but we also want to open up to questions from our audience. So I'm going to stop screen sharing just so we can all see each other, but I'd love to just first do a little bit more of an introduction with our two special guests. So to kick it off, if you could just say where you live, how long you've been serving in your position, and how you went down that path to serve either as a commissioner or counselor, and also a fun fact about yourself, because we would love to get to know you as people too, aside from your elected role. So would either of you like to go first?
I'll go. So I'm Katie. I live in Newport. I live about 120 feet from Beatrice. She is my neighbor and my good friend. So we live across the street from each other, and our daughters are very good friends. So great neighbor, great friend, great city council member to have there. I have been serving as a county commissioner. I'm in my third year of a 4-year term. I came from Oregon Sea Grant and OSU Extension. Previous to that, actually, Brianna was one of my students back in the day. So I mostly worked on marine policy and fisheries issues with a heavy emphasis on kind of outreach and engagement with the commercial fishing community and scientists and nonprofits and many other groups that work on ocean issues. So that's my background. In terms of what the county is doing on equity inclusion right now, I feel like in some regards, we've been working on working with underserved audience for the entire existence of the county, certain programs like our WIC program and public health, also community justice program. But I also feel like equity, diversity, and inclusion is a little bit new to us, and maybe we're a bit behind on trying to get, I guess, some of that more formalized, if that makes sense. There's also certain departments that, for example, I'll just pick on like the clerk's office, not something that they've really focused on. So right now we're trying to get a Spanish speaker on call that can do marriages in Spanish at the clerk's office, right? So trying to kind of go through department by department and see where we have room for improvement. On that, I say, I think the county is very customer service oriented. So we're taking our diversity, equity, and inclusion lens and trying to kind of apply that department by department on services. So we've actually been working with Beatrice and some others on transit services, trying to make those a little more friendly and how we can change those services or you know, do basic phrases in Spanish for bus drivers and that kind of stuff. So it's really an approach that we do, like I said, department to department. Public health right now is very involved in COVID-19 and vaccine outreach, has been doing, I would say, a phenomenal job on reaching underserved audiences. We had a clinic for agricultural workers, including seafood processing plant workers. Lots and lots of involvement from the Latinx community, and also MAM speakers and Spanish speakers being there to help pull that off. Beatrice was someone that came down to help. So I feel like public health has been doing a phenomenal job in trying to reach those harder to reach people. In fact, right now, I was just texting a minute ago, our community justice program is working with public health today in their parking lot to get 1-dose vaccines out to chronically underhoused individuals that are difficult to reach. So we're doing some of that work today. A fun fact about me, let's see here. Let's see, fun fact, we have a collection of guinea pigs at my house. We have the normal pets, like we have 2 dogs and we have a cat, and but we had 2 guinea pigs as a pet for my son, and then we rescued a 3rd, and then we had a unexpected litter of guinea pigs that we rehomed, and yeah, fun fact, we have guinea pigs, Polka Dot, Banana, and Maggie.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that. I had a lot of guinea pigs growing up, so that that hits home. Thank you. And Beatrice, if you could give your introduction too, that would be great.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here. I have been with City Council since 2019, and I got appointed, and then last year I did campaign, and it was so fun because I didn't, you know, I did a lot of remote outreach. So we had the Zoom, and so I did a lot of campaigning that way, and I'm very happy that I didn't spend any money in campaigning, you know, 0 money, because we had the opportunity to do a lot of outreach that way, you know, and trying with other councils. You know, the best part, other councils also joined to have this virtual together. So that was fun. Meeting up, even when we were, you know, looking to be in the same place, meeting up, you know, I think it's always fun to be collective and working together. That's the best part. And I want to say I'm very pleased that the community is both for me and an honor. I'm very honored, you know, to be, you know, for a moment I was thinking, I don't know if I really I'm gonna be elected, you know, I don't know, but I try, and I decided to do it because I enjoy being volunteering in the community. I have been volunteering in different places, like I do the Stone Soup. I volunteer through my church, and I volunteer through my, you know, through other areas in the community. But my background, I have a nursing degree in Mexico, and then I immigrated like 26 years ago. I didn't know, I mean, even when I learned it in the college, you know, English, I knew the writing, but I didn't know how to communicate. It was very hard, and it's still progressing, you know, it's a constant learning. Then these years, you know, I have been taking classes, going back to school. And then when I came, I started working right away with the health department. And actually Mike is there, and I work with his wife, who's a nurse, and they were very supportive, a great team. I feel like they were my sisters, you know. They really, you know, they were really very supportive. And I was working in the early childhood, and then also I had a part-time job with OSU Extension, but now I'm working full-time with OSU Extension, and I do the nutrition SNAP-Ed. It's SNAP education program, and I work with underserved communities and also people who's eligible for SNAPs. So we offer nutrition classes. We have also gardening, the component. And so I do a lot of outreach in Lincoln County, and I enjoy doing the outreach. That's one of the best parts. And being in city council has been a great experience. You know, we get along. Everybody who's right now in city council, you know, we get along. We you know, when we have very challenging situations, we look information, we read, and, you know, and we make decision based on what we hear from the community. And I'm very happy that I'm learning. Everybody in city council has been a mentor. But I also want to recognize Katie. You know, Katie has been there, you know, and very supportive. You know, sometimes I feel like, oh, wow, it's very hard, but, you know, she has been there promoting the a lot of things that are happening in the community right now with the clinics. She has been, you know, supporting the underserved community. She's out there looking and also asking for support. And I can say she asks support very often, you know, from the community. And it's very important, you know, to be out there and ask for support. And I'm very happy that the city at Newport, they just passed their statement, equity, inclusion, diversity. So all the programs, they're gonna implement that. So that's a new part of the city now. So we just have to work on how, we have to work on how we're gonna implement that and how people can come and say, you know, I wanna see these changes in diversity. I think it's very important. It's gonna be a great process. And also we have a group that we just started, and is the police committee advisory. So there's a group coming together, and the very diverse group, and they're gonna be working with the police and to bring, you know, kind of taking information from the police to the community and bringing information from the community to the police. I think it's very, very crucial. And the other parts that we have been working is the camping. We are kind of working on the, you know, having like a parking lots available. Right now we pass like 3 places where people can park for at least a month there. They can use a parking lot and overnight stay. So, and we have at least right now 3 spaces, and we extended to the churches and other areas. So if they want to allow having parking, and they have to have the toilets available. So I think there's progress there, and we will continue working on that. Thank you for allowing me to talk a lot here. And and then one of the funniest things, you know, when right now I remember because Mike is there. We decided to, all the nurses, the 7 nurses, we went to Mexico, and we got in this tiny, I don't know, Joy is there, but we got in this tiny little Beetle car, 7 nurses and a little tiny in Mexico City. That was the funnest part that we ever had, you know. We really enjoyed that. That was really fun. So, and we used the subway in the middle of the night, you know. That was a good experience. Say hi to Joy. I just remember that experience, you know.
She has very fond memories of you taking her to your hometown.
That's a great story.
So fun.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's great. Well, I have a few questions I've been thinking about, but I want to open it up to our participants here. And also Diane just joined us. So, so she is one of our participants who comes to a lot of these sessions, and I'm sure she might have some good questions too. So yeah, I'll just open it up to the audience if you have any questions for either or both of our guests.
I have a general question for Beatrice and Katie. Newport is a small town, and like Beatrice said, she and my wife worked together for a long time and we know each other. We also have a connection with Katie. We have her dog and our dog are from the same litter. But even at that, even though I feel close to elected representatives around here, sometimes I'm a little reluctant to reach out and to connect over various issues, only because I know that both of you are already overworked. And I don't want to cross any boundary at the same and be a nuisance at the same time. Where are those boundaries? What is the best way to reach out to local elected officials?
I think Beatrice and I are just looking at each other to see who wants to go first. So I first of all have to say I appreciate that you recognize we're overworked, because a lot of people think, I don't know what they think, that we don't work or something. I don't understand. I hear a lot about that, that I'm just overpaid and don't just get anything done, which is offensive. So I just appreciate the recognition on that. I would say two things that I would recommend. One is, and I'll put it in the chat before I leave here, but county commissioners do manage county departments. We have directors of those departments and then a county commissioner that oversees that director. So one of the things that's really helpful is if people, and I know they don't always know this, but if you can match your question, concern, et cetera, if it's around a county program, to the right commissioner. And if it comes to me, I just forward it on, to the right person. But that's helpful, because then that's one of the ways internally we divide the workload. So I have the juvenile department, I have transit, I have the surveyor's office, I have legal counsel, and I have public works. Other commissioners have veteran services or the planning department, finance, IT, HHS, et cetera. So that's just a helpful way to know kind of who to go to and how we internally divide the workload. I think another way to think about this is, especially if it's an issue or something that's gonna kind of like brew up, I really appreciate knowing about it like ahead of time. Like even though I work pretty hard and I can be overworked sometimes, I really appreciate saying, hey, did you know this issue is coming? Because I may not know. Sometimes community members know of things happening before I do. So I appreciate kind of being able to get ahead of something. I would also say that I think elected officials in general, including county commissioners, are really good resources for information. Like we just know a lot of people, we know a lot of programs and kind of what's happening. So I never feel burdened by someone saying, hey, I'm worried about whatever it is. Who does this? I mean, who is there a nonprofit that does this? So if you ever just need information about something or are looking for a contact, to me, that's easy for me to respond to. It's usually just something I have in my head and I can, CC the person from whatever group. So I'm happy to do that anytime. That's not difficult. And I think as far as, other issues go, it's just hard to say, without an example of what it is and what we can help. But, I always encourage people to at least reach out. And if I can't do it, I try to figure out who is working on that. So I'll let Beatrice add to what I said.
Good question, Mike. I really appreciate that question. With the city, when people submit emails, so usually everybody, especially, I think it goes through, if you copy the whole city council, everybody can see your comment. But if you put only one person, which usually is the, I think is the person who has the IT person and myself, that we can see, but not everybody. And sometimes their comments, they need everybody, the city council, needs to follow up right away, or, everybody, we need to see those, we forward those messages right away to everyone, and we let we're gonna forward this message to the city council, so everybody had that information. And the other thing that I do, people when contact me, sometimes they said, can I see you? Can we talk? Can we meet? We can meet at the city hall, when people want to talk. Of course, we can always meet. And sometimes I don't meet at the city hall. Sometimes I meet at the park, or I meet, and have some coffee or something, because sometimes it's I know the email sometimes, you put some information, but sometimes you want to extend more than just put, an email. So I'm open, either way. When people wants to talk, I just meet in the community and talk about what we need to talk. So and the other part is when I meet with someone, I had to, when I do my report, because I had to present it to the city council, I had to put, if I meet with somebody, who was a person, and, and what they want to address. But I just put it in simple, kind of, so to have the transparency is very important. The other councils, they know, what are their concerns. And sometimes, when we are in public, most of the time, there are things that need to be addressed, and or policy, regarding to policy, I have to open up that information and say, I talked to Mike because, about this, and share with everybody, especially when a decision is going to happen. So everybody knows that I talked to you about certain policy that we are going to decide.
Thank
So you are welcome, Mike.
Okay, next question out there.
So, Jean.
Yes, and by the way, I'm super enjoying this, Beatrix. Okay, Beatrix and Katie. So I'm really curious what motivated you to become an elected official, a public servant. That's the first part. And the second thing is, now that you've done it a while, have your expectations of what you thought it would be changed? I'm just kind of curious.
I'm gonna let Beatrice go first.
Sounds good. I will try my best, Jean. So I, when I decided to apply, I started when I was 18 in my country. They invited me to be part of one of the parties in my family. They were part of the party, the one my family, we were promoting. And then I was supporting during the voting, the voting, they asked me if I want to be part, and support with that. And that was the time, then I was like 19 or 20, that was the time when I decided, and I said, I really like this, this is so good, to be part of this commitment, with other people, and the democracy, and then I talked to my mom, and I said, I really want to be part of the government part, and then, when I got my degree, I went to work for the health department as part of the government. It was like a public official. And then working with the public, that's how I got, motivated. But then when I moved here, my English is not the best. So I really have, I was following policies and ordinances that were happening in the city, but I didn't I didn't, I was kind of watching and reading information, and then one day, a position got open and I was thinking, I'm gonna apply. I feel like, this is the time and we'll see, and then I went to apply and there were applicants, I can say, and I recognize they all had great, I saw their applications and I mean, a lot of applicants, they have a lot of experience and I was thinking, I don't think I'm gonna get in, but I did my best and I apply and then I started working. And one of the things that the first time that I got to city council, the first night, it was very, I was very excited, but also, learning the process. I like processes, I enjoy processes, but this is totally different process. So it took me a year to get, the organization with the process in city councils, and I still sometimes I miss it. Once in a while, I feel like, okay, close hearing or something, and I feel, oh, we miss it. And sometimes, but the process is so great because we are 7 people, and one of the things that I really like, the consensus part, having 7 people, the majority, and at the end, sometimes you feel like some things you both no or yes, and at the end, you realize that it's very important, because the majority vote for something, and we are 7. So that's very unique. I really enjoy that part.
Thanks, Beatrice, for going first this time. So why I went into an elected role, I had been with Oregon Sea Grant and OSU for about 16 years, so a really long time. Had a job I really, really loved and was very successful at. But after that long, I just kind of got bored. I had worked on ocean policy stuff for a super long time and was good at it, but just felt like I wanted to be involved in more issues besides just kind of ocean and fishery stuff. I also felt like the community kind of at some point just sort of started giving me feedback that it was time for me to do something bigger. And I'm very community oriented that way. I also had worked up and down the coast with county commissioners from other places, not just in Lincoln County, but in many other communities. And so there was just a feeling at some point of like, I can do that. I understood sort of what the job was from working with all of them. And it was like, I think I can do that. What's kind of different, from the outside in, I feel like I had a pretty good understanding of what the job was because I spent a lot of time understanding what it was and talking to people. I have seen a lot of people apply for elected jobs that I don't think they actually understand what it is, which is pretty clear when they start, campaigning. So I think it's important for you to really understand what the job is. The public perception of what a county commissioner does and what they actually do is very different. I, for the most part, don't see my job as overtly political. The large portion of my job is administration and leadership. So I supervise departments, I pass budgets, I deal with personnel issues. That's a large part of what I do. And a lot of people don't understand that you're also a manager and a supervisor. I also have 500 employees, so I have to kind of balance my time doing external stuff with my time doing internal stuff, right? Because if you ignore your employees, to simply go sort of get votes, then you're not being very good leader. So yeah, one of the things that was surprising is just how little people actually understand about, the county role and what those commissioners actually do. The other thing that was, I guess, surprising to me is just how many people hate elected officials without really knowing or having met many of them. Lots of comments like, all elected officials are corrupt or bad or evil or don't care about anybody. I mean, that's stuff that previous to the job, I didn't really notice. And now it's like, you're talking about me. You know, I mean, I'm an elected official. So people have a tendency to have a lot of hate towards their elected officials, which I take pretty personally, because it's like, hey, you know, I live here too. This is also my community. The other thing that was surprising to me is how difficult it is to operate on a commission of 3, unlike Beatrice that has a much larger board than I do. I'm on a commission of 3, so any 2 of us is a quorum. So I cannot talk to really any of my other commissioners on any county related business because it's a public meeting. And this is continually super frustrating to me. And it's not that I don't want to adhere to public meeting rules, but let me just give you an example. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, Katie, we're doing this great project to provide, you know, housing for unhoused people, and we're hoping the county can give us, you know, $10,000 so we can buy this property or do whatever. And I'm like, oh God, that's a great idea. That's awesome. Yeah. I can't then call Commissioner Hall or see her in passing and say, hey, I talked to so-and-so and they're doing this project, and can we send them 10K? Now I know, because I know Commissioner Hall, that she's going to be like, yeah, that's great. You know, let's make sure we have in the budget and let's do it. I know that's going to be her answer. But in order for me to actually get that answer officially, I have to wait for a public meeting where I can bring that up and discuss it to get it on the agenda, or I have to kind of have staff take that. So it's super frustrating to me because it just takes time to kind of work around some of those public meeting issues, especially on things where there doesn't really need to be much discussion. Like I know there's going to be support. Which is hard, or when people say, email me about something, but it's really not my department. And I can't reply and say, you know, hey, Anna, thank you so much for the email about the planning department, blah, blah, blah. I've copied Commissioner Hall on this, it's her department. I can't do that. I have to say, hey, Anna, you need to rewrite your email and send it to Commissioner Hall. So that stuff is really frustrating me because it's just hard. It's just not the way I like to sort of operate, and it just takes more time, and that's kind of frustrating for people. The other thing on a positive note that I didn't think about kind of going in is when you do have that success on securing funding for something or getting something done in the community that's been tied up in red tape, or just a project that can't move or whatever, and you finally break through whatever it is and you get that resource, it feels so much better than I thought it would. So we, you know, are just in process of getting some pretty large amounts of money that I worked on personally for wildfire relief and recovery. And man, that feels super good. I mean, I've gotten large grants previously working for Secret. I wrote lots of grants for money, but for whatever reason, it feels much better on this end than it did, you know, working for science for whatever reason.
Thank you so much, both of you, Beatrix and Katie. That's amazing.
So I have a question that we've been asking various elected officials that have spent time with us, and the answer has been a little different. So I'm going to ask it to both of you. What about a public testimony makes it really compelling?
I can go probably first. Katie, she put me in the first spot here. So you know, when someone comes with a testimony, something that I really focus on, because, you know, this is, I don't know, everybody has a different ways, but for me, it's like having the facts, you know, talking about being very objective, having 1 to 2 points, because there's only like a 3 minutes, and it goes really fast. And and I always think in to present the situation or the problem, and then offer also some solutions, how to fix the situation. Because I think, we can have the situation, but also what do you expect or what do you want to see? And the other thing that I also like, is when people, when someone comes and say, I'm curious about this, how it works. And it's good because, it gives us opportunity when someone opens that window, it's like, okay, also this the learning part, what is happening and the curiosity. Um, and also I feel like repeating the first part and the last part, because especially it's important to repeat. Sometimes we might, at my brain, sometimes I miss at the first part, but if you get in the last part, the summary is very good to have the summary, where the point of how you want to see things go. And the last part that I feel is also, talking directly to the council. And instead reading, it's more like a coming from here. I think it's so good when you see, when it's coming from here. And also, if you are representing a group, make sure to say, I'm representing a group or behalf myself, because it's very important to us if you are representing a group or just representing behalf yourself, your own ideas. And sometimes, it can be a little bit confusing if there are your ideas or there are from a group. And for me, I can say, sometimes it has been a little bit confusing, so being specific and concise, and bringing, the importance that you want to see change, and also your propose or things like how to change it. That's great. I always make my notes, because we usually have 3 minutes for comments, and if you send it to city council and you are not going to be there for any reason, don't forget to put it there. Please read it loud, because sometimes he forgets, some people, they send their comments, but they don't put a note, so they don't read it loud. Make sure when you send your comments, if they want to, those testimonies, they want to be read it loud during the testimony, the hearing, or the comments, put it there, read it loud for me. And if you're going to be in person or you're going to be participating, check in and say, I'm going to be there, and send your testimony before the time they provide, which usually they provide the time, the day that is going to be the city council. Thank you.
Thanks, Beatriz. Yeah, a couple of things I would add. In general, before you even get to the public testimony piece, I'm kind of always on the lookout for reasonable people within different industries or different groups or different parts of the community that I can go to have like a honest, realistic chat about whatever it is. So my biggest suggestion is, I like relationships more than I like your 3 minutes of public comment. And so back up from the testimony, and before there's ever an issue, kind of back to the point made earlier, it's nice just to get to know people and kind of know what they're working on or what their interests are, so that I feel like I have a reasonable person. And when I start hearing from a group about something, I can call up Jean or I can call up Tia or whoever and say, gosh, I'm hearing a lot about this issue from Surfrider. I just kind of need to have a conversation about this and make sure that I understand it, but also with someone I kind of trust that I can just ask stupid questions or whatever. So, I mean, I would say don't wait till it gets to a public testimony piece. Build relationships with people beforehand, because like I said, I'm always on the lookout for reasonable people. Also, when it comes to testimony, again, you know, be reasonable with what you're saying or asking for. If there's an actual proposal on the table, like right now we have an actual kind of proposal for vacation rental dwellings, you know, make comments on the actual proposal. It's like, we have that out. We've been telling people we want comments on what we're proposing, and people send us like, please don't, you know, please don't get rid of vacation rentals. And it's like, we never said we were, and you clearly haven't read the proposal, and that's not helpful feedback. You know, so read what's actually being proposed and provide thoughtful feedback on the idea. I would say also, you know, understand constraints that the county may have. I mean, if you're requesting something, you know, that might actually be a really great idea, but it costs $8 million and there's no revenue source from that, it's not going to happen unless you can think of a revenue source or a grant or something. And so, you know, make sure what you're providing back on feedback is reasonable and you understand the constraints we have. There may be laws or regulation that prevent us from doing things. So for example, back to SDRs, we, the county, only have jurisdiction in the unincorporated areas. So when I get feedback on Lincoln City's vacation rentals, I just forward it to Lincoln City. That's not something that we have jurisdiction to do. And so understand those constraints. Also, you know, understand what's a state thing and what's a federal thing. And if you're coming to us with testimony on the state or federal thing, make sure you let us know that you realize that and be clear about what you're asking for. So I understand this is a state problem. What I'm asking for from the county is advocacy to change this. You know, other than us walking away from your testimony thinking, I guess they didn't realize that the state does that, not us. Also, I would say, just because you have 3 minutes, you know, doesn't mean you have to use them. And I think sometimes compelling testimony, and this is just Katie's take, it could be different for other people, is kind of when you just get to it, you know, and provide the feedback. And it doesn't mean you have to use all 3 minutes. In fact, most of the time, people that plan testimony for 3 minutes end up being cut off because it goes too long, even if you practice. And so then maybe the last paragraph of your point, which was the most pivotal thing, you don't get to say anyway. So kind of Beatrice was saying, like, make your point, say some stuff, make your point, but you don't have to use up all 3 minutes. And then, you know, this one, I feel like it doesn't need to be said, but it does, because it happens a lot, is, you know, don't threaten your elected officials. And I know it's kind of laughable, but it happens a lot. I mean, like Beatrice is laughing. It's very common to get threats of lawsuits, both personally and against the county. It's, you know, a lot of this, well, I voted for you and therefore I'm going to recall you. I mean, that's like very common. Like I get many of those in a week. And you get so many of them, you're kind of like, whatever, you know, but still it's like that doesn't go well in the relationship building category. And it also, you know, suddenly your comment's not reasonable anymore when you put a threat into it. So I would also say if you're advocating on behalf of a group, you know, make sure the group has accurate information. And then my last point, as I might have said it previously, is no form letters. I know the form letters that everybody sends in, like a group puts together and people just forward them. They're really not very helpful, and I have a tendency just to delete them. Well, I shouldn't say delete. I actually put them in the archive file for public record, but they're not that helpful. And it really, really drives me crazy when I get a form letter that has inaccurate information in it. So form letters, bad.
Wow, thank you. That was a very informative answer. That was great. So we only have a few minutes left till the hour's up, and I want to be respectful of time, but I'm just wondering if there's one last quick question from either Tia or Diane.
I have a question. I don't know if it'll be quick, but we can end at time anyways. Also, thank you for that last answer. I'm actually helping a volunteer at one get ready for a testimony for city council in Eugene, so perfect timing. I have a question about like contentious issues that you're weighing a lot of, sides. That's almost like a wicked problem. How, or also if you have a personal view on something and you're getting a lot of public comment on the other side, how do you come to a consensus? And yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah, thanks. So my background is in a lot of conflict resolutions. I was a professional facilitator in my past job and did a lot of conflict. Oftentimes I was called in to deal with conflicting issues or wicked problems. And my role there was mostly neutral as a facilitator, trying to find solutions or bring people together. It's very different being on the inside, and oftentimes, we're not looking for consensus, because I don't need a consensus at the commission to get something passed. I need a majority. So when it comes to commissioners making a vote about something, I'm not actually looking for a consensus. I have to decide what I think is best for my constituents, or based on the feedback I've given, and we need a majority, not a consensus. So a little bit different process in terms of votes coming to the commission. I do work on other issues that require consensus. I would say for me, on some of these really contentious issues, I always try to boil it down to what's kind of the key problem here, because sometimes it gets so like mired up, and stuff, and people keep throwing in like the kitchen sink, so you like STRs, vacation rentals, is a really nice example of this, because, it kind of starts off around making changes to licensing or kind of livability of neighborhoods. And then people are throwing in like, they bring dogs that bark, and, there's extra trash in my, and it just keeps going. And so I try to get down to really what that core issue is, like kind of recognizing that we're not going to be able to solve every single problem. And back to sort of the reasonable comment, it kind of starts to get away from you, and sometimes into territory that's not super reasonable, like tourists shouldn't be allowed in the community ever, So I kind of tried to boil it back to what that key issue is. I have a tendency to sort of weight feedback from constituents that live locally versus constituents that live somewhere else. So I do take, input from everyone. Sometimes at the end of the day, you just have to make a decision. And there's certainly been decisions that I didn't feel real good about either way, frankly. There was a decision about a year ago with Georgia Pacific on some tax cuts for them, and I didn't feel super good about it. I did vote yes. It's kind of one of those issues I didn't want to vote at all, but I had to. And ultimately what swayed me is that the city of Toledo, which really felt like without that, they would be in severe economic trouble. They really, really, really wanted that. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what swayed me to go, is I felt like that I couldn't go against what a city really wanted. So sometimes it's just hard, and you just kind of have to make a decision. And I think it depends on the issue in terms of how I kind of come to that decision. But there's some that you just kind of know you're not necessarily going to make everybody happy, but a decision still needs to get made.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And can you hear me? I think it's my sound kind of weird. As a city councilors, we have work sessions. That helps a lot. I can say, when we have very hard issues, we bring those first, like a work session to discuss it, to have open dialogue. And also they bring somebody from the community. If we're going to talk about, like, Katie mentioned, like the STRs, when we had that decision, when we have somebody from people who had that information come to the table, they offer information to us, and also they share us data, and also they share like a, they share what other communities they have done or they have gone through, and working on, having those work sessions that are very, very important, because a lot of questions that we cannot ask during city council, we can ask those questions there directly, and find more information. And also we have, the public comes there, and also now we have available, they can provide comment during the work session. And that's very nice, because sometimes we talk about different things. And I finding, some of the things that is maybe a couple times it had been very conflicted to me is the racial justice, when we have something that is the policy decision, and sometimes some people that are not on the table. And it has been very challenging to me, when, populations that are not on the table, or or they, they didn't get information, some of the community members, is very challenging to me, and a couple times, I have to make decisions based on racial justice, because always I make decisions, that are very, what I listening from the community. But sometimes, like, I can put in a simple, I know that we already passed it, the city of Newport, we're gonna have parking meters at the bayfront. But something that happened is that, everybody was sent information who is gonna be impacted in the bayfront. The situation was that there's a lot of migrant workers, or restaurant, at the bayfront. I didn't see anybody coming forward, or those groups that were formed. I didn't see any minority part of this, bringing ideas forward. I don't know, maybe some people that were there that were representing, but I didn't hear any. It really is going to impact, workers that are there. And also, we don't have the transportation system to make a decision like that. Also, there's the other component. So I have to make that decision, because I feel like we were lacking that part. And then at the end, when the vote passed to have the meters, I request to everybody to have at least one or two members from seasonal workers or migrant workers on the committee to give their input, because I feel sometimes, that part is very important, because they're gonna be impacted. And that information needs to be spread around the workers. And I think it's those are decisions sometimes that is very challenging, that I see the community, and it's going to impact, different underserved communities like seniors, or, and sometimes, we don't have that kind of information, or I don't hear anything. It's very challenging, and impacts, different community members, and that's how sometimes I have to make decisions. And also I do a lot of research. It's like I listen comments that come. If there's a new decision, I look a lot and I have to read a lot what is happening, in other communities, just in our county and our neighbors, too, like Tillamook or Coos Bay, or what is happening in those communities, because we are also on the coastline. So there's a lot of things that are happening here, and we have very limited resources. So we have the same situations here. I think I'm talking too much, but I just want to share. I want to share how, sometimes, like Katie said, some situations that are very challenging sometimes.
Thank you so much for that insight.
Thank you. Well, thank you both for those wonderful answers. And I'm sure we could all ask you many more questions. I know I'm just keep thinking of more things I want to ask you, but it's now after 1. But I really appreciate you making time to come here and answer our questions and just be so honest with us. I mean, I've learned a huge amount, and yeah, this has been wonderful. So thank you.
I guess one last thing I'll say, then I'll let everybody go, is we're always looking for, Beatrice probably is too, committee members to serve on the Planning Commission or, HHS Advisory Committee or the Transportation District Advisory Committee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just as an easy way to maybe be involved on that end, there's always lots of openings both within cities and the counties for various aspects of public service.
If I could just add, Coos Bay Surf Riders also looking for some committee members. So there you go. Really super wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you both very much. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you all for
Thank
being
you for
here.
inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bree and Anna, for putting this on, and just what a lovely experience. As always, lovely.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, that was great. I really feel like I could have spent all afternoon chatting with them and asking questions.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
two wonderful people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Bree, I have a short question for you. I don't know if it's.
I'm late for another meeting,
Okay.
so
Right.
I have to go.
All right.
right.
Well, later, because it's like a little Eventbrite detail, and then I can do it. But later.
Yes.
Should I text it to you? Should I email it to you?
Text it to me.
Text you. Okay.
If that works. Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.